Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction preview series where we look ahead to the next match, which is a scary one. We wish it wasn't a scary one. Obviously, we would like to go into this game with lots of confidence, but recently, the last, I suppose, decade or so, we go into these North London derbies with quite a bit of apprehension. And it always is the case that they suddenly hit form just as they're about to play us. And also there's an injury doubt with Harry Kane that never turns out to be true. So you're pretty sure he's going to be starting. And, well, fingers crossed anyway, we can stop him scoring. But we're going to preview the game. I've got a couple of members as well to talk about it with too. So let's kick on with it. I'm joined by Zamir. How you doing, mate? Are you well?
Well, Tom. How are you?
Yes, very good. Well, that was, as I said, apprehensive is probably the word to use. And I'm also joined, making his TGT debut. It's Abid. How you doing, mate? Are you well?
Hello, mate. I'm good. Thank you very much.
Very good. Very, very good. It's nice that we're getting gradually more UK-based members. No offense, Amir, but there's a lot of representation from across the world, and the UK is letting us down right now. Daniel Robert holds down the fort quite a lot. But no, it's great to have another member, and I appreciate it. And you coming on today, Abid. And we're going to start with you, mate. Is your fear and apprehension kind of similar to mine, or are you confident going into tomorrow's game?
I'm not going to lie, mate. Ever since this virus has kicked into football, the whole anticipation in a football game, maybe it's because we're terrible as well, but it doesn't have the same impact anymore. Like, I guess if all the fans were there and you're in the stadium, it's a completely different feeling. But where we're 10th, whether we win or lose, it doesn't really matter to our league position, let's be honest. And we've got other priorities with the Europa League that, to be honest, is more important. So as long as we do our best out there and we just don't embarrass ourselves
there's no guarantees of that with us, exactly. Unfortunately. I can't give you any guarantees regarding embarrassment and Arsenal, I'm afraid. Zamir, are you of a similar mind? Or, I mean, you asked me how I was feeling it before we went live, and yeah, apprehension was the word I used, but how are you feeling ahead of the game?
I'm feeling okay. I mean, I think the last, 6 or 7 games in the league, has there any team that's really blown us off the park, except for Arsenal blowing themselves off the park? I mean, it really comes down to you limit the mistakes, we'll get a result. And it's a derby. I think, I'm not confident because Tottenham are just in form right now. But if there's a game that we could pull off a result, and if there's a game that would have some meaning that could potentially turn our season around, and I think it's the last game on our schedule that could do that, it's this one. So it means a lot, and we need to go for it.
Yeah, we do need to go for it. And that's maybe something that we've not necessarily been able to do against Spurs in recent performances. Their manager, we know very well, Abid, Jose Mourinho, and the home game against, the away game, against, but sorry, I just turned around, is absolutely pelted it down outside at the moment. Jesus Christ, I was meant to go for a run this afternoon. That's not happening now. So that's ruined, as I hope tomorrow's game isn't. But Jose Mourinho, I hope, isn't going to rain on Arsenal's parade. And he certainly did at the Spurs ground earlier on in the season, where Arsenal just really played into their hands. We played in a game in which we know they like to hit us on the counter. We know what they were about. They sit back and then they hit you not even when you're least expecting it, when you leave yourself open. And both of their goals in the game came from that moment. Do you think that Arteta, Abid, may have learned from that? Or do you actually think, with how Bale and Ali have come into the team of late, do you think Spurs will take this game differently and actually try and be more protagonistic in the game?
I think, if anything, they should be looking at how we've been trying to build up from back. And if anything, they should be pressing us as much as possible. We're still very fragile when it comes to building from the back. So if anything, it'll be, once again, if they get anything out of the game, it's going to be because we shot ourselves in the foot again. And unfortunately, it probably may end up that way. Just hoping it doesn't, because we know how the reactions are going to be.
How do you think Mourinho is going to set the team up, though? What do you think? I mean, you said there about obviously you want to try and pounce on those mistakes, but they did play very counter-attacking style against us at their ground. Do you think it will be similar again?
I still think they'll probably go with Kane with Son and Bale beside him. I assume it'll be probably Højbjerg on the base of midfield with Ndombele and who would the other? Sissoko. Yeah, most likely Sissoko. Sissoko will probably go on the right with Ndombele on the left, and then their back four probably just is Reguilon, Dyer,
Alderweireld, and
Aurier, or
Doherty he quite likes at the moment, so he might be going with Doherty. And then you've got Lloris in goal, obviously. But do you think, in terms of like tactical reasons, that he'll sit back and hit on the counter, or do you think he's going to try and really press to embarrass us?
I would say it's Mourinho. Nah, Mourinho never changes against us, does he? He's going to sit back. It's just typical. And what will happen is Kane will drop deep. There'll be a long ball to Son or Bale, and that's how they'll get their chances pretty much. That's why, for my defence, I haven't chosen David Luiz or Gabriel. As much as I love Gabriel, he's very aggressive. He loves pushing up. And it's a great trait of a centre-back. He's an unbelievable centre-back, and he's got so much potential. But I just think for this game, we just need a bit of calmness. We need a bit of leadership. And Pablo Mari, for me, is completely blown my expectations from like a 6 million signing off from the Brazilian league. Time and time again, he's proved what he can do at the back. He's very calm and he's great with his passing as well. So just hopefully Mari and my other partnership with Mari was Holding. They could hold their own against their front line.
Zamir, we obviously had a really good result on Thursday against Olympiacos, which has taken quite a bit of pressure off Thursday's game, because we know they have to score at least 3 goals at the Emirates to have any hope of progressing, which will take obviously a lot of kind of that anticipation around that game and maybe expectation on the lineup that we could maybe. And obviously, we brought off quite a few players towards the end of the match in Greece as well to give them a little bit of a rest. So, do you think that, knowing that, Arteta will go with an exceptionally strong side now against Spurs, and he won't have that same pressure of picking a team which would have had Thursday in mind?
I think regardless of what happened in the Olympiacos game, Arteta was going to go with the lineup that he thought was going to be best. And we saw that against Leicester, right? A completely changed lineup. Arteta came out with something completely unexpected, but it worked. It did the job. I think tactically, Arteta knows what he's doing. He sets us up right. It's just, again, the personnel on the pitch, sometimes it's an inability, sometimes it's a mental lapse. It's just something that we do to ourselves to not execute his game plan. Because if you look at it, I mean, like I said at the beginning, what team has realistically just blown us out of the water besides Man City? And they're just heads and shoulders above us. So I think Arteta will go with a strong lineup. I think maybe some changes that he would have not made, he will make now. Maybe starting Oba, for example, instead of saving him for Thursday. So I think those 2 or 3 key changes he might go for.
Abid, last question before we go into the lineups is going to be based around kind of the concerns you have throughout the team. You talked a little bit about the mistakes that we keep making and shooting ourselves in the foot, and maybe your team selection has reflected that. But actually, more so, let's switch it up and talk about where maybe we can hurt them. Where do you think actually their concerns will be? Where can Spurs be hurt? Where have you seen this season with the performances they've had? Where is the positions on the pitch which we can take advantage of, do you think?
I think their right back's a bit of an issue. Doherty and Aurier are not the best defensively, as is Eric Dyer as well. So definitely on the left flank, we can hurt them quite a bit. It's why you'll see from my lineup here is very left-hand heavy. But as well as that, if we can especially switch the ball to Pepe and have him one-on-one with any left back, I'm very confident in Pepe being able to rinse them. And for my concerns really are, if Arsenal don't do mistakes, we will get something out of the game, whether it's a draw or a win. Under Mikel Arteta, I can't say, like Zamir's been saying, only City can blow us away when it comes to playing the ball on the feet. If we just do our normal game without the silly mistakes, we shouldn't be a problem at all, even against Spurs or United or anyone. I mean, Thomas Partey alone could dominate any midfield. So my only concerns are Arsenal.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're completely justified in your worries, it's fair to say, with some of the performances and the mistakes that we have made. Let's just jump into the chat box quickly and see what you guys are saying. It's very good, I have to say, to have Christopher Fung back in the building. It's been a while. I know he's been extremely busy over in Canada and helping with the vaccine rollout out there. So obviously he's doing a big job out there, and fair play to you, Chris, for doing that. And I'm sure all the people out there are appreciating your efforts. Kevin says, beat Spurs, don't do anything stupid on Thursday, and then beat West Ham before the international break, and we still have a good season. I mean, you make it sound so easy, Kevin. You make it sound like it's a walk in the park for us, effectively. Top Techer says the North London derby is as important as the games against Olympiacos. Come on, you Gunners. Afternoon, Jashard's good. I've good show in the chat, mate. Omar says that he would go with Gabriel and Marie, both left-footed centre-backs in the team. Our resident spud, Liam, in the chat says he reckons that the Loris, Aurier Sanchez, Alderweireld, Regulon, and Ndombele, Højbjerg, Bale, Ali, Son, and Kane is going to be Spurs' team. Yeah, interesting to pick Ali in there instead of... Well, I'm looking at that and thinking that they're missing out on maybe Sissoko in there, and obviously Lo Celso's still injured, and they've got the likes of Winks as well in there. But it's interesting selection he's gone for, rather attacking with both Ndombele and Ali in that team. Kian says, Zamir, get Bellerin in your team. Well, let's see if Zamir has in fact picked Bellerin, and the answer is very simply no. But Zamir, do you want to pick it to go through your team for me, mate?
Yeah, I think I've gone with this team. This is strictly the lineup that I would play. I'm not predicting what Mikel's going to do. I don't know what Mikel's going to do. I think if I were to put my 11 out, this would be it. And, we said we played the best 45 minutes of football against Wolves, and we haven't used the same front four since. So I brought them back in for this game. I brought in Xhaka and Partey in midfield. And for my back four, I've gone for Tierney, Marie, Holding, Cedric, and Leno. David Luiz, he never plays another big game for me. You got to cut out one of the mistakes. And I think the likes of Holding, ESR, Saka, they really understand what the North London derby is about. I think they understand the meaning of this game, and even Tierney you can add in that bucket. And it's important to have those types of characters in a game like this. So this is the lineup that I've gone with. I think Partey Saka combination will be good, and I think Xhaka has a good connection with Pepe on the left, and him playing in front of Tierney will give that extra level of protection to the back four and allow Pepe some freedom up top. And Lacazette, he's the most underrated striker I think we have in our team. He always shows up against the big boys. Last season scored that screamer against Spurs. He's always putting in a shift. He's always holding the ball up. And I've gone for ESR instead of Odegaard. If ESR is fit, great. I'd have him in there for physicality. I think he presses really well as well. And Odegaard, if he plays, I have no objections to that. So I think this we can get at them. We can press them. As you were mentioning, Tom, what are the weaknesses of Spurs? That number 10 role, they can't deal with players who are really smart, who make runs, overlapping runs. Who, if Xhaka can have a good and Partey can have a good connection with ESR, then he can really play around with the front three of Laka, Pepe, and Saka interchangeably. And Spurs, they don't do well when you're having a lot of movement up front. You just have to look at what Lingard did against them a couple of weeks back. So I think we can be effective with this, and I'm hoping we will be.
Let's go on to Abid's lineup, which is only ever so slightly different. And you do make the inclusion of Aubameyang in there. And in the chat box, I think who was it in the chat was asking? Hamza was saying no, but Aubameyang in Zamir's team. I'll come back to you, Zamir, in a bit and ask you about that. But Abid, what do you make of your lineup? Why have you picked who you've picked?
Well, the reason why I ain't got Saka in the first place is I just think he looks shattered these last few games.
Yeah.
Wow, they've been targeting him as well, like really rough tackles, especially against Olympiacos. They're just wiping him out. And to be honest, if there's a game that he can come in to make an impact, I love it to be this one, to be honest. But with my current front three, especially with Auba drifting in, Laka dropping deep, I think Smith Rowe with his movement, especially, like Zamir said, he's going to cause so much issues with him just drifting in and out of spaces. And especially he's been playing on the left wing lately, who will probably occupy Auba's position when Auba's drifting in. And that's why I'll have Pepe on the right, because once all the movement's happening there, I think that's where Xhaka and Partey would most likely have to distribute Pepe so he can go one-on-one with Reguilon. And then that falls back to with Cedric, where Bellerin can't play with Pepe. I don't know what's his issue with Pepe. It never works out right. So that's why Cedric has right back, sorry. Xhaka and Partey is pretty much explainable by themselves, to be honest. I wouldn't trust the bias lately. El Neni, as well as he is the Egyptian god. Nah, not this one for me. Kieran Tierney, again, self-explanable. And then Marion Holding. It's just... With Harry Kane especially, he's going to drop deep. And with Harry Kane dropping deep, if I had Gabriel Luiz, I could just imagine one of them trying to push Harry Kane and leave a massive hole at centre-back. And that's where they can hurt us with Son and Bale. If we have Marion Holding, I think positionally, they're probably our best centre-backs. They're our most disciplined. And when it comes to trying to hold against Kane, Bale, and Son, as scary as it sounds, they're probably the two I would rely on more than, say, Gabriel or Luiz, to be honest.
Interesting. It's interesting because, as maybe you've predicted, I've actually gone for Gabriel and Luiz. So, listening to you two absolutely ripping to pieces, I'm sitting there going, right, how am I going to explain this one? I'll talk you through my team because there's quite a couple of changes in there as well. Leno is of course the obvious pick. As for me, is Cedric on the right. I thought Bellerin had a really, really horrible time at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium earlier on in the season, and Son completely ruined him. And I think Cedric's probably a little bit more positionally disciplined. You may even see Chambers come back in because he's arguably the better of the three defensively. So he might be the one that's more disciplined than the others. Luiz and Gabriel, my thoughts around this is I disagree in the sense that I think these two are our best centre-back partnership, personally. I think that Luiz and what he offers us with the ball going outwards and his distribution adds something extra to what Holding can give you. And Holding's performances when he has played have dipped and actually has barely played over the last few weeks or so. And throwing him back in, I think, might be a little bit too risky. I get the idea behind it, and he has turned up after periods of absence and absolutely smashed it at times. I'm just a little bit less kind of faithful, I suppose, in that sense with him. Gabriel, I thought, was excellent against Olympiacos with Luiz in that game. Gabriel obviously got the header and was really influential in stopping a lot of those attacks that came through their right-hand side. I thought he was really unfortunate in the situation that we obviously conceded. There wasn't too much he could do about the shot from El Arabi. Tierney obviously picks himself. Xhaka and Partey, I think, is equally the same. I wouldn't trust necessarily Ceballos in this match. He was the next one I would have chosen. El Neni scored a great goal against Olympiacos. Love him for it, but I saw a lot of people come out of the woodwork on Thursday evening to suggest suddenly that he should be starting over Xhaka. I still can't, in my mind, get my head around the idea of El Neni being better than Xhaka. We need someone to progress the ball forwards, and I know that Xhaka does pass backwards and sideways in part of his game, but El Neni is like 99% backwards and sideways, whereas Xhaka is, let's say, 80% or so. I still think that's harsh, to be honest. I've gone with the combination of Ødegaard and Emil Smith-Rowe together, and Emil Smith-Rowe, a lot of people feel that he cannot play in a wider position. Now, people get bogged down with seeing things on paper. Just because Emil Smith-Rowe is sitting on that left-hand side there, that's not where he sits the entirety of the game. We've seen against some of the sides we played against this season. We played them both against Leeds, and they did fantastically well at interchanging and the fluidity. Emil Smith-Rowe drifted inside and caused a lot of problems defensively for Leeds' backline. I think that we can create quite a few problems with Spurs. As Zamir and Abid both picked up on, they're not the biggest fan of quick movement and fluidity and interchanges between positions of players against opposition teams. And when you've got Emil Smith-Rowe and Ødegaard in there together, that movement should hopefully create chaos to enable the likes of Aubameyang to get in behind, because one of the biggest problems that we've had against the big six sides is the fact that Aubameyang gets very isolated when he plays on his own. So when you play with two very creative players, and arguably three with Saka in there as well, those three can interchange fantastically well to create as many chances as feasibly possible. If Emil Smith-Rowe doesn't start, I would be picking Pepe. Willian, there's just for me, there's always going to be the question around the faith. I put the faith in him against Olympiacos. Eventually, it came through the assist for Gabriel, but it's just I haven't yet got that faith for me to put Willian as a starter. But if Emil Smith-Rowe isn't necessarily 100% fit, I would go with Pepe on that left-hand side and agree with Abid in terms of his front line. So I'm going to go back to Zamir because, of course, you didn't pick Aubameyang in your team, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to explain why. So talk me through it, mate.
Yeah, I mean, Aubameyang, he doesn't offer anything against the big six, right? It's just the runs in behind against teams like Leeds who play a high line, and Spurs are going to sit back, they're going to sit deep, and there isn't going to be room for Aubameyang to make those runs. I mean, am I going to be upset if Aubameyang starts? No, I'm not. But I just feel Lacazette is that player who shows up against the big six all the time. He offers that hold-up play, that physicality, which I think you need against Spurs. We're not going to be able to hold possession in their half for a lot of the game because they force us into mistakes. And the minute they press us, we're open at the back. I think you also can't really put any if you look at the way we played last time, Tom, we played a 3-4-3, and the channels in behind were pretty open. I think going to a back four is going to help, but we played Lacazette and Aubameyang together in that game, and you can say that Lacazette had arguably the better of the chances of the two, and had more impact on the game. So, I mean, I just think the front four that we in every podcast we keep going back to, what's the best half we've had? Wolves. Okay, why not play that same front four again? It's the combination that works. And you've got a healthy party now, fingers crossed. You've got Granit Xhaka, who's, as I've been also saying the last couple of weeks, the Xhaka meter's up. He's made his dumb mistakes. And now hopefully we're going to see him get back into form. And so that's why I've gone with the front four. I don't think in a game like this, Aubameyang offers us much. And I think also, if we're level, if we're even a goal behind, what better player to bring on than Aubameyang to run at the back four?
I understand your explanation, and it makes a lot of sense when you think about the examples we've seen with those guys playing together. Lacazette is someone that, if he ends up getting isolated like Aubameyang has the ability to drop deeper and to pick up the ball and help link up those plays. The only thing is I feel like we're not going to get a lot of chances, to be honest, in this game. With the form of him and that Laka, I feel like I have more faith, even with Aubameyang's latest kind of run of missing a fair few chances. Yeah. I have more faith in him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I just for me, I can't drop Laka against a big team. Like he's there. He's gonna score a goal. Even if you look at the game last season where, I mean, Laka opened up with an absolute screamer from 30 yards out. He's got that in him. And I just, like I said, am I going to be upset with either striker starting? No, my preference is just Lacazette because I think he gives us more in a game like this against an opponent like this.
Yeah, fair enough. Janice, thank you so much in the chat for dropping in a donation, mate. I was just waiting for the right time, son, to read it out. I wanted to let Zamir have a chance to explain his Aubameyang theory. But the real Janice, thank you so much, mate. He says, no confidence in us picking up any points from this fixture. Let's be real, Willian and Hector Bellerin are going to start. I don't want to see Holding. Tom, this is going to kill me, which is, yeah, I understand. We don't like negativity, but I mean, if it comes in the form of a donation, we're a little bit more, accepting.
Lenient.
Oh, we're going to have everyone in here soon, all the AFTV crew dropping in donations. We're like, okay, fine. Welcome, guys. Roll out the red carpet. No, it's going to be really, really tricky to kind of get over. I think seeing the lineup initially an hour before kickoff, the meltdown on social media that erupts after seeing those lineups is huge. I mean, I remember the eruption of the lineup against Chelsea on Boxing Day. And it was huge seeing the likes of Gabriel not there, seeing Emil Smith-Rowe starting, which I know got a lot of positive response, but people saw the likes of Maitland-Niles playing at right back. And there was quite a few weird kind of responses to it. And then look what happened. We went out and we won 3-1. So you never know what can happen in these games. And I think that ultimately that if Bellerin does start, it comes off the back of a couple of decent displays. He was good, I thought, on Thursday against Olympiacos. Some of his deliveries were a lot better than they have been previously. So I'm hoping that kind of form, if he does start, carries on. And the same goes for Willian. If he does start, he's had a fair few decent games. 4 assists in 4 games is a level of consistency we've not had from Willian this season. So fingers crossed he can ultimately get into that team. B, just before we move on to predictions, any kind of final thoughts based upon the different lineups that you've seen now? I talked about Gabriel and Luis starting in there. Are you still 100% sure on picking Holding and Marie as your back two?
Yeah, I just don't trust Luis in a big game, and I can't. Gabriel is another issue, but we can't have Gabriel and Murray. It's all about balance with Arteta, so I can't really see him ever choosing 2 left. I don't know why. It's just something in England we don't really see a lot, with 2 left-sided centre-backs in the centre of your defence. But with Luis, I know he's great at playing from the back, but even against Olympiacos, that mistake he did to give the chance away, oh my God.
Yeah,
we've seen it with countless other players, but with Luis, I don't know why. I think there's some sort of unconscious bias on Luis as well. This is just me probably talking out of my head. But for example, if I can remember correctly, Mari on Vardy, when we played Leicester, he pretty much took him out. It looked great. If Luis had done that, I can't say that would have been a red card. just because of Luis.
You're not wrong. I can't disagree. Yeah,
and I just feel like, especially in these situations, Luis does put himself in a lot. Even if he does win the ball in like a last-ditch tackle, he's just got this unconscious bias on him, and it always goes wrong for him. It's bad to say, but I just wouldn't play him. If we played 3 at the back, which I don't think would change formation suddenly for one game, I could see him at the centre of the defence. But if we're playing 4 at the back, I can't, not this game.
Yeah,
if we want
fair enough. Fair
3 at the back is going to leave you so exposed with Son and Bale just running straight in behind.
Kale, wow, we combined them.
Sorry, Todd. But yeah, no, I agree with you. Luis just makes me uncomfortable. It just I don't feel confident. And the reason I picked Holding was because, Tom, I wouldn't mind Gabriel. I don't know if he's ready to play every 3 days after COVID. I think he play every week, but I don't know if physically he's there. And that's a question I think we'll see that's answered over the upcoming weeks.
Fair enough. Let's get your predictions then. While you two are thinking, let's run through what you guys in the chat box. If you've got any thoughts ahead of the game, let's throw them in and we'll read some last few comments out. Vinny is going for 3-1 Arsenal. See, this whenever we do this, it always builds up optimism every single time. Wilson says 2-1 Arsenal. Juan says 3-3 if Bellerin and Luis play. Hamza says 4-2 Arsenal. Manu Clucks is gassed ahead of the game. Omar says 2-1 to the Arsenal. We're going to win this. Hello to Tim, our resident Leeds fan, supposedly, who is unfortunately predicting a 3-1 Spurs win from a neutral perspective. Chris says 7-0 Spurs. I need to balance out Omar's sudden positivity, which makes a lot of sense. Reginald says if someone gets past Louise in the box, there's 90 reoccurring chance of a red card going to happen. Dan Roberts says 6-0 Arsenal. Runnison with a hat-trick. I mean, I'm sensing a little bit of tongue-in-cheek there, Dan. I'm going to be honest. But Reginald goes for a 3-1 Arsenal win. David Ziegler, friend of the show and friend of course, Mike, whose birthday it was yesterday, says would love another 5-2 Arsenal win. And Gunners 007 Raven says 2-1 to the Arsenal. So, Zamir, what are you going for, mate? What's your prediction on a couple of scorers as well, if you think there is going to be any scorers, that is?
Yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-2. I think it's going to be a good game, exciting game, but I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. From our side, I think Lacazette will score, and I think Pepe will score. And then for them, I think Bale and Kane, they'll get the 2.
Fair
of
enough.
course, one of them will come from us.
Yeah,
we'll give them
we must score an own goal.
We must give them a customary, just laying in on our goal. That I'm resigned to that fact at this point.
Abid?
Well, I was going to go 2-2, but that's a bit boring. Just keep the same result. So I'm going to go 4-1 Arsenal. Just why not? The goal we're going to concede is going to be the customary penalty that Kane always gets against us. He gets one every game, so he probably gets one this game.
Yeah.
I can see a red card happening. There's going to be a lot of drama. And I'm hoping Pepe has an absolute madness of a game. He's been a lot of fans are now asking him to get back in the side. It just shows ever since that Leeds game after the red card, he's really like switched it on. He's now performing really well every time he's playing. And I think this is the game he's going to make his mark. Well, hopefully this will be the game he finally makes his mark in English football.
Yeah, fingers crossed. If he does play, then he's going to hopefully have an absolutely smashing game. The same goes for obviously all the squad, and we are, fingers crossed, hoping for something great tomorrow. I can't see Spurs not scoring, and as Zamir says, I think it'll be us that just roll out the red carpet and say, here's a free goal, and we can come from behind. So I'm going to go for I'm going to be optimistic and say 3-1. I don't know what I'm thinking, but I'm going to say 3-1 with Aubameyang to get a couple, and it would be nice to see maybe Thomas Partey get on the score streak from a corner. Getting up there with a big header would be nice as well. So there's mine. Last one in the chat from Ayu, who says 2-1 Arsenal, Odegaard and Pepe to score. So fingers crossed we can see this positivity in the chat continued into the game tomorrow. I'd like to thank you, my massive and fantastic panel of members this afternoon. First of all, making his debut was an absolutely fantastic one to be. Thank you so much, mate.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me on here, and I do apologise for coming off the membership perks.
It's absolutely fine, mate. It was a mistake at the end of the day. It's not a Christopher Fung who disappears for like 5 months, doesn't say anything. He comes back last minute for the North London derby. We see how you roll, Chris. We see how you roll. But no, thank you, Abid. You can find him on Twitter at Abid Shahid 97. And thank you so much also to Zamir. As always, an absolute pleasure, mate. And I'm hoping the weather is better in New York than it is right here. And it's literally horrible right now. But I can see there's like a glow from your window. I'm hoping it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had some really good weather here the last couple of days. Of course, it's snowing on Monday or Tuesday. So, but at least the weekend is good, and I'm hoping that that the Arsenal really pull out a result and make this weekend perfect. Only a North London derby win is really gonna top this weather that we're having here. So, but thanks for having me on. Always good to be on, and hopefully the Arsenal will pull out a win on Sunday.
Fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed. You can find Zamir on Twitter at NYCGooner34, and you can find us at the Gooner Talk TV and myself at Tom Canton Media. I'll be back tomorrow straight after the game to divulge whatever happens. Fingers crossed something good. I will be joining Hugh for the watch along, so fingers crossed that superstition comes true and we can get a win off the back of that. Otherwise, it's going to get very tense and very angry between the two of us. But fingers crossed we won't have to worry about that. We'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.